If you're a rugby fan, don't forget that you can catch up with the Six Nations action on the BBC iPlayer. This is BBC One, and now it's time for the news with Mishal Hussein.
Proposals for a big rise in alcohol prices to curb binge drinking are set to be dismissed by the government. Ministers are likely to overrule their own chief health advisor, who wants an end to cut-price alcohol.
We're very clear we don't want to punish the majority for the sins of the minority.
A major concession tonight by Pakistan's leaders after another day of massive protests. The disappearing coral reef, scientists say they could be gone in decades. Good evening. The government looks set to rule out a call from its own chief health advisor for a big rise in alcohol prices in England to try and curb binge drinking. In a report tomorrow, Sir Liam Donaldson, the chief medical officer, will call on the government to set minimum prices for alcohol, a move that could double the cost of some drinks. But today a minister told the BBC that the government had no intention of punishing the majority of sensible drinkers. Here's our political correspondent, Joe Coburn.
Millions of people enjoy drinking socially without it threatening their health. But there's increasing concern about the social impact of binge drinking, particularly amongst young people. The cost to the NHS of alcohol-related illness has now reached around £3 billion a year. Cut-price deals and special offers on alcohol have fueled the argument that drink has become too cheap. Now the government's top medical advisor wants a minimum price for alcohol. A respected and influential figure, it's thought Sir Liam Donaldson will recommend that no drink be sold for less than 50p per unit of alcohol. That would mean a bottle of wine with 9 units couldn't be sold for less than £4.50, and a can of beer with 2 units would have to cost at least £1. Even the Department of Health's own research suggests a minimum cost like this could reduce consumption by almost 7%. But such a policy would hit all drinkers and wouldn't go down well in a recession.
It's a bit out of order, really, I think. Don't you?
Well, kids these days, they're drinking too much, really.
There's a vast majority of people who haven't got a lot of money who buy the cheaper stuff. For example, I do, because it's all I can afford.
Today, the government pretty well dropped the plans, a day before they're being officially presented to ministers.
Well, clearly we'll look at Liam Donaldson's proposals. He's a very eminent person in his field, but we're very clear we don't want to punish the majority for the sins of the minority.
But setting minimum prices for alcohol is an idea being pursued in Scotland and has the support of many doctors who believe there's a direct link between cheap booze and excessive drinking.
Affordability, it absolutely mirrors consumption. The more affordable that alcohol becomes, the more consumption you get. The two curves go absolutely parallel.
It looks as though any plans for minimum pricing of alcohol will be shelved, certainly for now. But as with smoking, attitudes can change and the idea could come back to the table sometime in the future.
And Joe's with me now here in the studio. Joe, this seems a little curious. These are proposals that aren't even out formally until tomorrow, and the government's already been pretty dismissive of them.
Yes, I think because the plans have been trailed, the government obviously felt it had to respond when asked about it today. And I think the problem for the government is that despite a lot of medical opinion and fears about binge drinking, it's just not politically palatable for the government to actually go ahead with these plans. In the current economic climate, it's probably the last thing the government is thinking about doing, charging people more to buy alcohol. But, never say never. Sir Liam Donaldson, has been proved right in the past. He obviously advocated a ban on smoking in public places long before it became law. And who knows, sometime down the line he may be proved right about this, but certainly not at the moment.
Joe Coburn, thank you. Now, in the past few minutes, Pakistan's government appears to have made a major concession to protesters after another day of violent clashes on the streets. It's understood that it's agreed to reinstate the country's most senior judge. The climb down comes after claims that the opposition leader Nawaz Sharif had been placed under house arrest and growing international concern that the standoff was threatening the country's stability. Damien Grammaticus reports now from Islamabad on the day's dramatic developments.
On the charge, police moved in this morning. Opposition supporters and lawyers fought back. The police orders were to prevent them starting a protest march to the capital. This is politics in Pakistan.